Commander Vexler Kuhn adjusted his breathing apparatus and surveyed the war room. Tension filled the air like a noxious gas, almost visible to the naked eye. 23 of the galaxy's finest tactical minds sat around the holographic display, each representing their respective species in the Galactic Coalition. The Morgathians with their plate-like exoskeletons. The vapor-based Nobulons whose containment suits hummed with electricity. The multi-limbed Tetrax whose appendages twitched nervously. And then there was the human Lieutenant Diana Knox. "We strike at dawn," Commander Kuhn announced, his 4 compound eyes blinking in sequence. "The Harvester fleet's shield generators will be at 53% capacity due to the radiation from the binary star system. Our calculations show this is our best opportunity to penetrate their defenses." The room buzzed with agreement. Heads nodded, appendages tapped on tablets. Data streams were shared between neural interfaces. But the human? The human was silent. Normally, Lieutenant Knox was a constant source of irritation during these briefings, always questioning, always suggesting alternatives, always making those strange human expressions that Kuhn had learned meant skepticism or amusement. Her vocal patterns would rise and fall dramatically, what the humans called sarcasm, a concept that required 3 seminars for the coalition forces to barely comprehend. Today, she sat completely still, her eyes fixed on the holographic display of the Harvester mothership. Her usual animated features were frozen in what Kuhn recognized as deep thought. "Lieutenant Knox," Kuhn said, mandibles clicking with annoyance. "Do you have something to contribute to our battle strategy, or are you conserving your infamous human vocal energies for once?" The other alien commanders chuckled, their various respiratory systems producing a cacophony of sounds. Knox looked up slowly. "No, sir. The plan is fine." "Fine? Fine?" In the 6 solar cycles since the human had joined the coalition, she had never, not once, described any plan as fine. She had called plans suicidal, half-baked, a one-way ticket to the cosmic garbage disposal, and once memorably so bad it makes actual bad plans look good. But never fine. Kuhn felt his dorsal spine stiffen with unease. Something was wrong. "Very well," he continued, trying to ignore the nagging sensation in his tertiary ganglion. "The Tetrax assault ships will provide frontal distraction while our Nobulon stealth vessels—" "Sir," interrupted General Zafix of the Morgathians, his metallic voice grating against Kuhn's auditory receptors. "The human is exhibiting abnormal behavior. In my experience, when a human becomes quiet during battle planning, disaster follows." The room fell silent. All eyes, optical sensors, and sensory appendages turned toward Knox. "That's ridiculous," Knox said, finally showing some emotion. "I just think the plan is solid. Unusual for you all, but it happens." "You are lying," said Zafix. "Your ocular muscles contracted 12% more than your baseline, and your right hand has been tapping a non-random sequence. Classic human deception indicators." Knox rolled her eyes. "We really need to update your How to Read Humans manual, Zafix." Commander Kuhn raised all 4 of his upper limbs to silence the room. "Lieutenant Knox, as much as it pains me to admit, General Zafix raises a valid concern. Your species has a troubling history of becoming suspiciously quiet before executing some reckless, unorthodox tactic that defies all logical military doctrine. Please explain your unusual silence." Knox sighed. A peculiar human habit that Kuhn had learned indicated frustration or resignation. "Fine, your plan has a flaw, but it's not my place to point it out. The last time I suggested an alternative approach," Commander Kuhn said, and I quote, "We will entertain your primitive human strategies when the 7 moons of Kaldar freeze simultaneously." "That was merely a figure of speech," Kuhn protested. "Was it? Because Ambassador Nerilix sent me an actual meteorological report showing that the 7 moons of Kaldar have never frozen simultaneously in recorded history." The room erupted in a mixture of electronic chirps, rumbles, and high-pitched whines, the coalition equivalent of laughter. Kuhn's mandibles clicked rapidly in embarrassment. "Lieutenant, Regardless of my colorful discouragements, if you have identified a flaw in our battle strategy, it is your duty to speak. Nox stood up, her relatively small human frame somehow commanding the attention of beings 3 times her size. She approached the holographic display and pointed to the Harvester mothership. Your attack plan assumes the Harvesters operate on logic. They don't. They operate on hunger. You are plotting this like it's a standard military engagement, but it's not. It's a feeding frenzy. She manipulated the hologram, zooming in on what appeared to be insignificant segments of the Harvester vessel. Look here and here, she continued. These aren't defensive positions. They are feeding tubes. The Harvesters won't be concerned with typical defensive protocols during an attack. They will be focused on consuming as much energy as possible before responding. And this changes our strategy. How exactly? Asked Chuon, trying to mask his growing interest. Nox smiled. Not her usual smile, the one that signaled she was about to say something that would confuse or annoy the coalition commanders. This smile was different. Predatory. It reminded Kuhn that humans, despite their soft exteriors and diplomatic demeanors, evolved as pursuit predators. We don't attack at dawn, she said. We attack at lunch. 6 hours later, Commander Kuhn found himself on the bridge of the coalition flagship, the intrepid Vanguard, watching as Lieutenant Nox's lunch strategy unfolded. Instead of the dawn assault on the Harvester fleet's shield generators, they had waited until the massive ships began their energy absorption cycle, what Nox had crudely but accurately termed lunchtime. The Harvester vessels had extended their enormous energy siphoning appendages toward a nearby neutron star, making themselves vulnerable in a way their standard defensive posture would never allow. Target the feeding tubes, Nox directed from her tactical station. Not the shield generators. The tubes connect directly to their power cores. It's like shooting someone in the mouth while they are eating. General Zafix made a sound of disgust. Your human analogies are disturbingly biological, Lieutenant, says the being whose species literally digests metal. Nox shot back without looking up from her console. Commander Kuhn raised an appendage. Focus, please. Lieutenant Nox, your strategy has placed our entire fleet in an unorthodox position. If you are wrong. I'm not wrong, Nox interrupted, her eyes never leaving the tactical display. And if I am, you can feed me to the Harvesters yourself. They probably find human flesh absolutely delicious. Your species' comfort with self-deprecating humor during life-threatening situations remains puzzling, noted Salin, the Nubulon tactical officer, their voice bubbling through their vapor interface. It's how we cope, Nox replied with a shrug. That and excessive caffeine consumption. The bridge fell silent as the Harvester vessels, enormous blade-shaped ships that resembled ancient Earth harvesting tools, hence their coalition designation, but continued to extend their energy siphoning appendages. The appendages glowed with increasing intensity as they drew power from the neutron star. They are at peak feeding, Nox announced. All ships fire on designated targets. Now, the coalition fleet, hidden behind the radiation shadow of a nearby moon, emerged in perfect formation. Instead of the frontal assault originally planned, they attacked from multiple vectors, each ship targeting the now exposed feeding tubes of the Harvester vessels. The first volley of quantum torpedoes struck with surgical precision. The reaction was immediate and spectacular. Energy backflowed through the feeding tubes, creating cascading explosions along the hulls of the Harvester ships. Their shields, designed to defend against external attacks, did nothing to contain the internal chain reactions. By the 7 nebulae, breathed Commander Kuhn, his compound eyes widening in astonishment. It's working. Of course it's working, Nox replied, allowing herself a small smile. Indigestion is a universal concept. 3 Harvester vessels were already disabled, their feeding tubes severed and their power cores in meltdown. The remaining ships attempted to retract their vulnerable appendages and raise shields, but the coalition forces pressed their advantage, targeting the bases of the tubes where they connected to the main power systems. Lieutenant, called Salon from the tactical station, Harvester Command ship is attempting to coordinate a counterattack. They are deploying hunter-seekers. Ignore them, Knox ordered, standing now, her body tense with concentration. Hunter-seekers are automated. They are programmed to target engine signatures and excess plasma from your secondary thrusters to confuse them. Commander Kuhn hesitated. That's not standard protocol. With all due respect, Commander, Knox interrupted, her voice tight. Standard protocol is what the enemy expects. 8 years fighting these monsters taught humanity one thing: never be predictable. Kuhn looked around the bridge. The other alien officers waited for his decision. Billions of lives across dozens of worlds depended on this engagement. If they failed here, the Harvester fleet would continue its path of consumption across the spiral arm, leaving only husks of planets in its wake. Do as Lieutenant Knox suggests, he finally ordered. Vent plasma from secondary thrusters. All ships. The Coalition vessels released controlled bursts of plasma, creating ghost signatures that confused the hunter-seekers. The autonomous weapons locked onto the decoy emissions, spiraling harmlessly into empty space. Meanwhile, the attack on the feeding tubes continued. 7 Harvester vessels were now completely disabled, their once terrifying silhouettes reduced to dark, lifeless hulks drifting in space. Harvester Command ship is attempting to retreat, reported Salon. They are charging their dimensional drive. Knox's expression hardened. Not on my watch. Commander, permission to execute Phase 2? Kuhn blinked in confusion. Phase 2? What Phase 2? The phase I didn't tell you about because you would have definitely said no. Before Kuhn could respond, Knox activated her comm unit. Archer Squadron, you are clear to deploy. I repeat, clear to deploy. Fire in the hole. From the far side of the neutron star, a small group of human fighters emerged. Unlike the larger Coalition vessels, these were nimble, single-pilot craft, barely visible on sensors due to their stealth technology. What are they doing? Demanded Kuhn, his mandibles clicking rapidly in alarm. What humans do best, Knox replied, her eyes fixed on the approaching fighters. Something incredibly stupid that just might work. The human fighters accelerated to speeds that seemed suicidal, streaking toward the Harvester Command ship like tiny meteors. Those vessels cannot penetrate the Harvester's hull, Zafix pointed out. Even damaged, their armor is too thick. They are not trying to penetrate the hull, Knox explained, her voice now deadly serious. They are delivering packages. The fighters released small objects barely visible on the tactical display, then broke formation, veering away from the command ship at the last possible moment. Magnetic anchor mines, Knox explained as Kuhn stared in horrified fascination, designed to attach to the hull near the dimensional drive housing. These when they tried to jump to hyperspace. The Harvester Command ship's engines flared as it attempted to engage its dimensional drive. For a moment it seemed as though it would escape. Then reality itself seemed to twist around the massive vessel. A sphere of distorted space-time enveloped the rear section of the ship, collapsing in on itself with devastating force. When the visual distortion cleared, nearly 1/3 of the command ship was simply gone. Not destroyed in the conventional sense, but removed from this dimension entirely. The bridge of the intrepid vanguard fell completely silent. Holy seven hells, breathed a Tetrax officer, breaking protocol by speaking without permission. Nobody reprimanded him. The crippled Harvester Command ship listed to one side, emergency systems flickering across its remaining bulk. Without its dimensional drive, it was stranded, a predator with its legs cut off. Knox turned to face Commander Kuhn, her expression professional but her eyes betraying a hint of satisfaction. Target neutralized, sir. Awaiting further orders. Kuhn stared at the human for several long moments. Lieutenant Knox, he finally said, his voice carefully measured, when this engagement is concluded, then you and I will have a very detailed discussion about the meaning of joint command structure and sharing of tactical information. Knox nodded, her face appropriately somber. Yes, sir? Looking forward to it, sir. No, you are not. No, I'm not, she agreed, a small smile playing at the corners of her mouth. But the harvesters are definitely having a worse day than I will. General Zafix approached, his metallic exoskeleton catching the light of the bridge illumination. Commander Kuhn, I believe we owe Lieutenant Knox an acknowledgement. Her unconventional strategy has achieved in minutes what our conventional approach might have failed to accomplish at all. Kuhn's dorsal spines relaxed slightly. Indeed. Though I am curious, Lieutenant. What made you certain the harvesters would be vulnerable during their feeding cycle? Our intelligence reports never indicated such a weakness. Knox's expression changed. The triumph faded from her eyes, replaced by something darker. Because I have seen it before. On Earth. The bridge grew quiet again, but with a different quality of silence. Every coalition officer knew of Earth's devastation. Yea. How the harvesters had descended on humanity's homeworld before the coalition even knew of humanity's existence. How nearly 2 billion humans had perished before the survivors managed to drive the harvesters back, not with superior technology or numbers, but through desperate innovation and a terrifying willingness to sacrifice. They hit us during our celebration of a solar eclipse, Knox continued, her voice steady but distant. Scientists, families, everyone looking up at the sky. Perfect targets. But during the third wave, we noticed their ships would pause to process the energy they'd absorbed. Vulnerable for just minutes. We used those minutes, cost you Chicago and most of the Great Lakes region, to test the theory. But we confirmed it. They get hungry, distracted, just like any predator during a feeding frenzy. Commander Kuhn placed one of his upper limbs on Knox's shoulder, a gesture he had learned was meaningful to humans. Your people's sacrifice has not been in vain, Lieutenant. The knowledge you gained has saved countless lives today. Knox nodded, the darkness in her eyes receding somewhat. That's why I joined the coalition, Commander, so no other world would have to learn these lessons the hard way. The tactical display updated, showing the remaining harvester vessels either disabled or retreating in disarray. Status report, called Kuhn, turning back to the business of command. Harvester fleet is in full retreat, Commander, reported Salin. 17 vessels destroyed or disabled. 3 attempting to withdraw but sustaining heavy damage. Coalition casualties minimal, 3 ships reporting moderate damage, no vessels lost. And the Archer Squadron? Knox asked, tension evident in her voice. All fighters accounted for, Lieutenant, 2 with damage but returning to bay. The tension visibly drained from Knox's shoulders. Thank you. Commander Kuhn surveyed the battlefield displayed before them, the most decisive victory against the harvesters in the coalition's history, all because a human had been suspiciously quiet during a briefing. Lieutenant Knox, he said formally, the coalition owes you a debt of gratitude. Your tactical insight has proven invaluable. Knox offered a small salute. Just doing my job, Commander. Though if you want to express your gratitude, the human contingent would really appreciate better coffee in the mess hall. That sludge you have been serving us is practically a war crime. The bridge erupted in relieved laughter, a symphony of clicks, whistles, rumbles, and electronic tones. And as Commander Kuhn watched the humans smiling amongst her alien colleagues, he made a mental note for future reference. When the human gets quiet during battle planning, don't dismiss it. Pay very, very close attention. 3 lunar cycles had passed since the decisive victory against the harvester fleet. The coalition had capitalized on their success, liberating 4 previously occupied star systems and establishing defensive perimeters that would make future harvester incursions significantly more difficult. Lieutenant Diana Knox had received a commendation from the Galactic Council, much to Commander Kuhn's mix of pride and irritation. And now, here they were again. Another battle briefing. Another harvester threat. But this time, something felt different. The harvester remnant forces have consolidated at Proxima Station, Commander Kuhn explained, his compound eyes scanning the holographic display. The intelligence suggests they are planning to use the abandoned mining facility as a forward operating base. The familiar faces of the coalition command staff surrounded the tactical table. General Zathix of the Morgathians, still skeptical but now with a newfound respect for human intuition. The vapor forms Salon, their containment suit emitting a soft blue glow indicating analytical processing. And of course Lieutenant Knox, who was smiling. "Something amuses you, Lieutenant?" Huon asked, mandibles twitching with curiosity. "Not amused, Commander. Just appreciating the irony," Knox replied, leaning forward. "Proxima Station was originally built by humans, you know, before the war. Before we even knew aliens existed. This was news to Kuhn. Your species constructed that station. Our records indicated it was of unknown origin." "That's because your records started after the first Harvester attack," Knox explained. "They hit Proxima Station before Earth. It was our first off-world mining operation. Autonomous, minimal crew. We lost contact, assumed it was technical difficulties. By the time we realized what was happening, the Harvesters were already descending on Earth." The war room grew quiet as the implications sank in. "So the Harvesters are essentially returning to the scene of their first meal," General Zathix observed, his metallic voice uncharacteristically gentle. "Exactly," Knox nodded. "And they have picked the perfect defensive position. Those mining tunnels go kilometers deep into the asteroid. The main chamber has walls of compressed nickel iron that would withstand most of our standard weapons." Commander Kuhn tilted his head, a gesture he'd unconsciously adopted from his human colleagues. "You seem remarkably well informed about this facility, Lieutenant." Knox's smile faded. "I should be. My sister helped design it." The revelation hung in the air. Huon had served with Knox for over a standard year now, but personal details about her life before the Coalition were rare and precious things. The human tendency toward emotional privacy remained a fascinating yet frustrating trait to the more communal species of the Alliance. "Then you understand the facility's vulnerabilities," Huon suggested. "Perhaps better than anyone else in the Coalition." "Yes and no," Knox replied. "I know the original design. But that station's been in Harvester hands, on and off, for 8 years. They have modified it, adapted it to their needs. We'd be fools to assume it's the same place my sister helped build." General Zathix leaned forward, his exoskeleton clicking softly. "What do you propose, then?" "A standard assault would result in unacceptable casualties." Knox didn't immediately respond. Instead, she manipulated the holographic display, zooming in on different sections of the station. Her brow furrowed in concentration. What Kuhn had learned was a human indicator of deep thought rather than confusion. "Lieutenant." Kuhn prompted after several moments of silence. Knox looked up, and Kuhn felt his dorsal spine stiffen involuntarily. There it was again. That look. The same one she had worn before proposing the lunch strategy that had devastated the Harvester fleet. "I think," she said slowly, "we need to send in a small team. Very small. Before the main assault." Salon bubbled skeptically within their containment suit. "Infiltration?" "The Harvesters would detect any approach. Their sensor arrays." "Not if we use a Trojan horse," Knox interrupted. The alien commanders exchanged confused glances. "A wooden equine?" General Zathix asked hesitantly. "I fail to see how an Earth mammal, particularly one constructed of plant material, would aid our tactical situation." Knox laughed, a sound that still startled some of the more sensitive-eared species in the room. No, it's from an ancient Earth story. The Greeks wanted to infiltrate the city of Troy, so they built a huge wooden horse, hid soldiers inside, and left it outside the city gates as a gift. The Trojans brought it inside their walls, and, well, night fell, soldiers came out. Gates were opened, and Troy fell. "So you propose we give the Harvesters a gift?" Commander Kuhn asked skeptically. "I doubt they will fall for such an obvious deception." "Not a gift," Knox clarified. "Bait. Something they can't resist. Something they are hungry for." Understanding dawned on Commander Kuhn. "Energy. You want to lure them with energy. Knox nodded, a predatory glint in her eyes. Exactly. But not just any energy source. Something special. Something irresistible. She manipulated the holographic display again, pulling up schematics for what appeared to be a modified reactor core. This is a Helios battery, human technology. We developed it after the first Harvester attacks. It outputs specific radiation signatures that Harvesters find particularly delicious. Think of it as offering filet mignon to a species that's been surviving on scraps. And this delicacy will be our Trojan horse? Asked General Zafix. Yes, we place the battery in a damaged shuttle, make it look like a refugee vessel that suffered engine failure. The Harvesters will detect the energy signature and bring it aboard, just like the Trojans wheeled in their wooden horse. And inside this shuttle? Kuhn asked, already suspecting the answer. A small infiltration team, Knox confirmed. 3 operators, maximum. Any more would create biosigns too obvious to conceal. Salon's containment suit flickered with concerned pulses. The risk would be extraordinary. If discovered, extraction would be virtually impossible. That's why I'm volunteering to lead the team, Knox said firmly. Commander Kuhn's mandibles clicked rapidly in surprise. Out of the question, Lieutenant. Your tactical mind is too valuable to risk on such a mission. With respect, Commander, I'm the only one qualified, Knox countered. I know that station's original layout better than anyone. I have fought Harvesters on the ground. And she hesitated briefly. I have personal motivation to ensure this mission succeeds. Your sister, Kuan, stated quietly. Knox nodded, her face showing that strange human mixture of determination and vulnerability that still fascinated Kuan after all this time. Her name was Eliza, Knox said softly. She was on Proxima Station when the Harvesters first arrived. She's the reason we had any warning at all before they hit Earth. Her last transmission gave us precious hours to prepare, saved millions of lives. Knox's voice hardened. I owe it to her to take this station back. The war room fell silent. Even General Zafix, usually quick with objections, seemed to recognize the weight of the moment. Finally, Commander Kuhn spoke. Very well, Lieutenant. You may lead the infiltration team. But you will select your teammates carefully, and you will follow extraction protocols precisely. Is that understood? Perfectly, sir, Knox replied, straightening to attention. Thank you. As the meeting continued, discussing the details of the larger assault that would follow the infiltration, Kuan noticed something troubling. Knox was quiet again. Not the focused quiet of strategic planning. Not the respectful quiet of listening to superior officers. No, this was the dangerous quiet. The human quiet that preceded reckless heroism and impossible victories. And it worried him deeply. You are not telling me everything, Commander Kuhn said as he cornered Lieutenant Knox in the corridor after the briefing. Knox continued walking, forcing the taller alien to match her pace. I told you the plan. 3-person team, Trojan horse strategy, get inside, disable the defensive grid, extraction once the main force arrives. And yet you have been unusually quiet about certain details. For instance, who else will comprise this infiltration team? I'm still evaluating candidates, Knox replied evasively. And the true purpose of this Helios battery? Energy signatures attractive to Harvesters, yes, but what else? Knox stopped walking and turned to face him. What are you implying, Commander? Kuan lowered his voice, even though the corridor was empty. I have served with humans long enough to recognize when one is planning something excessive. The Helios battery. It's not just bait, is it? A flicker of something resignation? Respect? Crossed Knox's face. You are getting better at reading humans, Commander. Answer the question, Lieutenant. Knox glanced around before responding. The Helios battery can be modified to create a localized reaction similar to a miniature supernova, being contained, directed, but devastating within its blast radius. Kuon's compound eyes widened. You are bringing a star killer onto an infiltration mission. It's a contingency, Knox insisted. If we can't disable the defenses, if extraction becomes impossible, we need a way to ensure the mission still succeeds. By sacrificing yourselves? If necessary, yes. Knox's voice was steel. This war has already cost too much. If my life and the lives of my team can end this threat permanently, that's a trade I'm willing to make. Kuon studied the human before him, so small compared to most coalition species, so fragile-looking with their soft exteriors and vulnerable respiratory systems, and yet, within that delicate package, a willingness to face extinction that sometimes terrified even the coalition's most battle-hardened veterans. "I cannot authorize a suicide mission, Lieutenant," he said finally. "It's not a suicide mission," Knox argued. "It's a mission with a contingency plan. There's a difference, a semantic distinction at best." "No, Commander. It's the difference between throwing lives away and being prepared to make necessary sacrifices. We don't plan to die. We plan to succeed. But if those plans fail, we ensure the harvesters don't win either." Kuhn's mandibles worked silently as he considered his options. He could remove Knox from the mission, replace her with someone more predictable, less personally invested. But deep in his tertiary ganglion, he knew that would be a mistake. This human, with her unpredictability and her pain and her fierce determination, might be the only being capable of succeeding. "Very well," he conceded. "But I want your word, Lieutenant, your human word, that this contingency is truly the last resort." Knox met his gaze steadily. "You have my word, Commander. I didn't survive the fall of Earth just to throw my life away. But I also won't let the harvesters keep anything my sister built. Not one bolt, not one circuit." Kuon nodded, satisfied for the moment. "Then I wish you good hunting, Lieutenant. May your ancestors guide your steps." "And yours, Commander," Knox replied with a respectful nod. As she walked away, Kuhn couldn't shake the feeling that he had just authorized something momentous, something that would change the course of this long, bitter war. He just hoped he hadn't signed the human's death warrant in the process. 48 hours later, Commander Kuhn stood on the bridge of the Coalition flagship, watching as a small, damaged shuttle drifted toward Proxima Station. "Trojan horse is on approach," reported the tactical officer. "Harvester sensors have detected it. They are deploying capture vessels." "Life signs?" Kuhn asked, trying to keep his voice neutral. "3 signatures, all human, all showing signs of hypersleep. The Helios battery is emitting the expected energy pattern. Harvesters are responding exactly as Lieutenant Knox predicted." Kuon nodded, his compound eyes fixed on the tactical display. The shuttle, deliberately damaged to appear as a refugee vessel, was being drawn into one of the station's auxiliary docking bays. Just as Knox had predicted, the harvesters couldn't resist the energy signature of the Helios battery. Now came the waiting. The infiltration team would awaken from their simulated hypersleep, make their way through the station, and disable the defense grid. If all went according to plan, they would signal the Coalition fleet, which would then launch its full assault. If all went according to plan. But Kuon had learned that when humans were involved, plans had a tendency to evolve in unexpected ways. 6 hours passed. The Coalition fleet remained hidden behind a nearby asteroid field, engines cold, emissions minimal. The station showed no signs of alarm, no indication that the infiltration had been detected. "Signal from Lieutenant Knox," announced the communications officer suddenly. "Text only." Kuon straightened. "Display it." A simple message appeared on the main screen. "The gates are open. Troy falls tonight. Launch the assault," Kuon ordered, relief evident in his voice. "All ships, full advance. Weapons free." The Coalition fleet surged forward from its hiding place, engines flaring to life. As they approached the station, Kuhn expected to encounter the formidable defense grid that had made a direct assault so problematic. Instead, they met nothing. "The defensive systems are offline," reported the tactical officer, surprise evident in their multi-toned voice. "All of them." Not just suppressed, completely deactivated. How is that possible? General Zafix demanded from his station. Even with the infiltration team's success, the redundant systems should have. He was interrupted by an incoming transmission. Audio only. "This is Lieutenant Knox," came the familiar human voice, sounding strained but triumphant. "Welcome to Proxima Station, gentlemen. Sorry about the mess." "Lieutenant," Huon replied, "report your status. My team and I are in the main control hub. We have neutralized the Harvester command structure and disabled their defense grid. The station is yours for the taking, Commander." "Casualties?" A pause. "Sergeant Patel didn't make it, and Major Blackwell is pretty badly injured. We need medical evacuation ASAP. Dispatching emergency teams now," Huon assured her. "Lieutenant, how did you manage to disable the entire defense grid? Our intelligence indicated multiple redundant systems." Another pause, longer this time. "Let's just say my sister built in some back doors that the Harvesters never found. Family reunion of sorts." Huon detected something in her voice, that human emotion they called bittersweet, victory tinged with loss. "We are reading unusual energy fluctuations from the station core," interrupted the science officer, assistant with imminent reactor overload. "Knox," Huon demanded sharply, "what have you done?" "What needed to be done," she replied calmly. "The Helios battery is integrated with the station's main reactor now. In 30 minutes, this station will no longer exist. Enough time for your forces to secure any intelligence and for our teams to evacuate, but not enough time for the Harvesters to regain control, even if they manage to regroup. You gave me your word this was a last resort." Kuhn's mandibles clicked rapidly in agitation. "And I kept it," Knox insisted. "The contingency wasn't necessary for our survival, but it is necessary to finish this. Commander, this station contains Harvester technology we have never seen before. Research into more efficient ways to strip planets of resources. If they perfect this technology, no world would be safe." Kuhn absorbed this information, his tactical mind processing the implications. "You are certain?" "I have seen the data myself. Trust me, Commander. This place needs to be erased from existence." After a moment's consideration, Kuhn made his decision. "Very well. All forces, priority 1 is intelligence gathering and evacuation. We have 29 minutes before this station becomes a memory." 28 now, Knox corrected. "Better hurry." The Coalition emergency shuttle landed smoothly in the flagship's docking bay. Commander Kuhn waited as the medical teams rushed forward, extracting the gravely injured Major Blackwell on a hovering stretcher. Behind them came Lieutenant Knox, walking under her own power but visibly exhausted, her uniform torn and blood-stained. "Lieutenant," Kuhn acknowledged with a respectful tilt of his head. "The evacuation is complete. All Coalition forces accounted for. 5 minutes to detonation." Knox nodded, her eyes fixed on a nearby view screen showing Proxima Station growing smaller as the fleet retreated to a safe distance. "Your sister would be proud," Kuhn offered, remembering how humans valued such sentiments. "She would understand," Knox replied softly. "Eliza always said that building things was easy. Knowing when to let them go, that was the hard part." They stood in silence, watching the countdown on the tactical display. When it reached 0, a blinding flash erupted from the station. The Helios battery's reaction consumed the ancient mining facility in a miniature nova, leaving nothing but scattered particles where a Harvester stronghold had stood minutes before. "The Harvesters will regroup elsewhere," Kuhn noted pragmatically. "This is not the end of the war." "No," Knox agreed, "but it's the beginning of the end. We have taken back what was ours, shown them we can hit them where it hurts, and most importantly—" She turned to face him, her expression resolute, "we have proven they can be beaten. Not just fought to a standstill, not just driven back, beaten completely." Kuhn considered this. And what will you do now, Lieutenant? Request reassignment to recover from your injuries? Knox actually laughed at that, a sound that still startled nearby crew members not accustomed to human expressions of amusement. Are you kidding? I'm just getting started. The harvesters took my sister, my home, nearly my entire species. I'm not stopping until every last one of them understands what happens when you pick a fight with humans. Even if it costs you your life, Kuon asked quietly. Knox's smile turned grim. What's that old human saying? It's not about how many breaths you take, but how many moments take your breath away. I'd rather live one day fighting back than a lifetime hiding. As they walked together toward the medical bay to check on Major Blackwell, Kuon reflected on everything he had learned about humans since their species joined the coalition. Their unpredictability, their capacity for both compassion and terrifying violence, their strange humor in the face of devastation, their quiet moments that preceded their most audacious acts. Lieutenant Knox, he said, coming to a decision, I am recommending you for promotion to commander. The coalition needs your unique perspective in higher positions of authority. Knox stopped walking, genuine surprise on her face. I'm honored, sir, but I'm not exactly known for following regulations. Precisely, Kuon replied. The harvesters don't follow our rulebook. Perhaps it's time our leadership included those who think beyond it. For once, the human seemed at a loss for words. Then she straightened, offering a formal salute that Kuon had learned was a sign of deep respect in human military tradition. In that case, I accept, sir. Though I should warn you, I might be even quieter in the Admiral's briefings. Heaven help us all, Kuon muttered, using a human phrase he'd grown rather fond of. Knox grinned, that uniquely human expression that still unnerved many coalition species. Don't worry, Commander. When humans get quiet, it just means we are plotting something amazing. As they continued down the corridor, Kuon found himself strangely comforted by that thought. The galaxy was a dangerous place, filled with threats like the harvesters, and who knew what else lurking in the vast unknown. But as long as there were humans like Knox quiet at key moments, then bursting into action with plans so audacious they bordered on insanity, perhaps there was hope after all. The harvesters had made a critical error when they attacked Earth. They'd awakened something ancient and primal in humanity, the quiet fury of a species that refused to go gently into extinction. A species that, when backed into a corner, became most dangerous in those moments of unnerving silence. A human quiet during a battle briefing wasn't a retreat. It wasn't submission or acceptance. It was the most dangerous warning sign in the galaxy. And thankfully for the coalition, the harvesters hadn't figured that out yet.